Hi, this is Paul Thomas at DynoChem 2011 in Rosemont, Illinois, and today I'm talking with Steve Hearn, and Steve is the COO of Scale-Up Systems. Steve, thanks so much for being with us.
Thanks, Paul. Thanks for talking to me.
Steve, there's a lot of exciting modeling that's being presented here at the show. It sort of belies the fact that a lot of people think that the industry is conservative. Does this suggest that the industry is not conservative and maybe making a lot of progress?
I think in the last 5 years we've really seen, as a result of what was originally an initiative by the FDA, and the talk of it becoming actually more mandatory, that people do more design space thinking, that a lot of companies who previously would have been purely empirical in their approach have certainly switched over, and now modeling is part of the furniture in many of these development labs, and the training and the support and the development of the workflows that go with that is up at management level, and they are now taking control of that and taking it very seriously here.
What kind of modeling applications are you seeing these days that are really intriguing in your mind?
Yeah, beyond the chemistry end, which has always been very strong for modeling and a big value add for the industry, I'd say some of the more interesting areas has been on the solid form. People have even introduced new groups that cross the boundary, which were previously siloed between crystallization and drug formulation, and they're seeing a lot of synergies in terms of thinking about that up front and using modeling to design that around that interface, and not just seeing the API crystal as an endpoint. So that's certainly one area. Also, continuous flow generally, whether it be plug flow reactors or continuous stirred tank reactors, they've dipped a toe in the water in that area, and clearly modeling when you're designing for continuous flow is a prerequisite, as it would be outside the pharmaceutical industry. So those are two exciting areas right now.
And you talked about silos, and one traditional silo obviously has been between research and development and commercial manufacturing. Are you seeing a lot of the modeling work being done these days maybe with more of an eye towards commercial manufacturing?
Yeah, I think in a lot of people's risk analysis in terms of when they are looking at a new synthesis route, let's say, manufacturability is definitely factored in, and a lot of people do more scale down thinking. So what experiments should we be doing in the lab so that we know we can confidently scale up should we need to pull the trigger and start making many kilos of this material very quickly. So I think generally that's where chemical engineering in particular, the understanding of how the heat transfer and how the characterization of the equipment they will be mapping onto has been to a large extent, and the major pharma companies, has been well characterized, and they're more confident now about mapping new reaction steps and so on onto their plants. So.
And there's been a couple of presentations on flow chemistry, which you mentioned, flow chemistry in early development and also in commercial manufacturing. Are you seeing more modeling done in regards to flow chemistry, and are there more capabilities in terms of what you're able to offer?
I would say, even 2-3 years ago, prior to that, we had zero support and projects on flow chemistry, and now, we're up at around about 5-10% level on the support level. So there's a high level of activity. Further on the flow end, the interesting thing about the talk given today by Martin Gwynn at Pfizer was actually just use of flow chemistry as a lab development tool, not as a manufacturing endpoint or a goal. I thought the way he thought they'd thought through the tools the chemists needed to make it as easy to use as a round bottom flask, and how they use that data to within a very short space of time be able to deliver API product to the business. I thought that's a very significant development, and I think a lot of people in the audience really picked up on that, and I think some of them are thinking about how quickly they should be doing the same thing.
And so there's obviously a little bit of pressure on you as a vendor to meet the needs of these major companies that are here.
Well, DynoChem has always been able to model plug flow reactors and stirred tanks in series, so it's always been a capability lying in wait for use by the pharmaceutical industry. So whilst there are some improvements we're looking at, it's been ready to do that for a number of years, because DynoChem originated in Syngenta and so on, where they would have to design their processes continuous or batch. So I think we've got people here who've worked on their background is continuous reaction engineering from outside the pharmaceutical industry. So we feel pretty comfortable talking to companies about their flow chemistry applications.
Steve, one of the other applications, or sorry, one of the other presentations that I thought was very interesting was from Eli Lilly in regards to variability in the design space. And design space is usually something that's fairly concrete and firm, but obviously variability needs to be something built into design space considerations. Are you seeing more progress in that regard?
Yes, I think the interesting thing about that talk is they're at the leading edge in terms of their thinking, but clearly by his statement saying that design, the deterministic design space was a good starting point, and I'd say at the moment that's still an endpoint for a lot of companies to even define that deterministic design space. But clearly there are other sources of variability within that, and which shrink that deterministic design space down so that the actual real design space is actually within that window, and you need to include the uncertainties in your model but also common cause variability from running these things on plan. And it's just a clearer way of transmitting that information through an NDA to the regulator, but also internally for them to know where to operate. So I thought that was a very clear presentation on the future direction of where everybody will be headed with the design space.
How do the presentations that you're seeing here today, which is your North America users group obviously, how do they compare with those from DynoChem India, which was just a couple weeks ago? What did you see there? Does it suggest that the Indian pharmaceutical industry is maturing and moving forward as well?
Yeah, we had a mixture of the multinationals, a lot of the US multinationals from India, but also the indigenous Indian companies and also the universities, and it was a very exciting mix of people. And whilst the meeting here and the one we're having in Europe in 2 weeks' time will be, we've got much more maturity in terms of their application of modelling. I certainly detected an urgency to update their workflows in development there, and also a lot of young talent from the Indian universities where their course seems to be much more suited to doing lab work and modelling hand in hand. So these guys seem to be very well prepared for a life in the new pharma industry that we've been discussing just now. So it was very exciting. We're going to be back there next March. We need to follow up quickly because there's a lot of demand, and we will be setting up a company in India as a result of that visit in the very near future, and getting people on board that can help our customers out there get further with our product much more quickly. So we're very excited about that. Yeah.
Great. Well, Steve, thanks so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it.
Thanks, Paul. Great talking to you.